When I was reflecting on today's reading, I think what's very important is to recognize that the work of the Lord really is his work. It's his job. He's the one who makes it grow. He's the one who makes success. It's over and over in many different places. And a lot of us who grow up, I think, in America, and we sort of make things happen and we become successful, we do easily think it's by our own efforts. We did that. We did the work. We pulled ourselves up from our, bootstraps, and we made it happen, right? And I think that that's important for us because we don't want to waste our time doing things that are not successful, right? It's hard to stay encouraged when you're doing something that's not even successful and doesn't do anything. So we end up wanting it to be the successful part of it. But then you see Jesus' words today, and I think for me, always reminds me of something that I already know and believe. But in the end, it's God's work. He says, these are the things you need to do. He said, look, go and do his work. Go and do these things. But don't accumulate a lot of stuff. Don't consider yourself successful by having a lot of gold and silver and in your belt and copper, in your belt. But just go lightly through this life. That in terms of that, go freely. And if you meet people who are peaceful, stay with them. If you don't meet people who are peaceful, just leave. And I think there's something, somebody says like, no, they need to be peaceful. I'm going to get them peaceful. I'm going to make them nice. Or I'm going to make them Catholic. Or I'm going to make them believe. Or if I say the right thing, they'll finally believe. In the end, so it's like, you know what? I caught another one there, asking me a lot of questions. But what happens is we can fill ourselves with lots of pride and say, this is, we're the ones who are successful. And it really is, if they, say, just move on if they don't reject you. This is God's work. This is God's world. We're visitors in it, and we have, as he says, without cost you received all of this. We didn't pay to come here, right? And without cost, we are to give. This is all. It's all a free life we've been given, and so much of it gets wrapped up in the things we have to do and get done and accomplish and be. When in the end, it's like God's like, look, I gave you a place to kind of exist, and don't worry about a lot of those things, And I think it matches with the first reading because this is what happens to us. In that first reading, I love his phrase. He says, the more I called the people in his ways, he says, the further they went from me. You probably have that experience maybe with your kids, right? So you're trying to call them, and it's like they resist even more, right? Just because you're trying to work with them. Maybe you even try to meet with them, or you're trying to, as some parents say, put some sense into them. They become even more senseless, right? It's like it's working against it. And then it says, but they sacrificed to Baals and they burned incense to idols. In other words, they became they went away even more because that's what the human being does. But God in that first reading keeps talking about, but yet I fostered them like one raising their infants to the cheek. So sort of a gentle kind of thing, put a baby right here, as though I stooped to feed my child. But you know what? The last phrase is, they didn't know I was the one doing that. I was their healer, And I think in the end, that's the message. Look, it's God who does all of this. We always say it's God who gave you these children. It's God who gave us this life. It's God who helped us. That's the primary cause, as we say. And the secondary cause is how he works with our free will to make all these things happen. But as people of faith, we always believe in the primary cause, which is the cause of all of this, the cause of even the ability to cause things to happen, if you may say. But the readings constantly remind that we're a people who think, yeah, no, we do it. It's all ours. We make all this happen, and it's by our own power. So we remember that, and most importantly, that we're servants of the Lord, and faithful regardless, and never forget that it's God's work in the end. He'll make it happen rather than us. And it frees us from having to be successful